Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Balie. Also, welcome to our online audience. Welcome to the Freedom Lecture of Standing Together. And the Freedom Lecture is supported by the V-Fonds. And in this series, the Balie has welcomed many freedom fighters from all over the world. So tonight, our guests are standing together. It's the largest Arab-Jewish grassroots movement in Israel, and they strive for full equality between Palestinians and Israelis. And tonight they will explain how they work from the principles of solidarity and collectivity towards justice. So the editor of this evening, where is she? Is Sarah Toxos from the Balie. Where are you? Yes, she's there. And my name is Meert Vreese, and I will be your moderator this evening. And then when I was asked, I was really thrilled to do this, but I was also a bit anxious, because gatherings about Israel and Palestine always are very emotionally charged, because many people in the Netherlands feel emotionally connected to Israel, to Palestine, or to both. And especially since October 7th, it feels that, you know, when you speak out, you are immediately placed in one of the camps, or when you stay silent, you are complicit. So I'm very curious how you are feeling tonight, because this event was sold out so fast. So I thought there must be, with a lot of you, an urge, you know, to come here tonight. So I was just wondering, and I'm not going to put a mic underneath your mouth, it's just with hands, but who is also a bit anxious about this evening? Please raise your hands. Yeah, well, I'm very happy that I'm not alone. So who has felt, especially since October 7th, sometimes very lonely? Yeah, that's what I hear a lot. And the thing is that when you feel lonely, and there are so many people around you that feel lonely, that maybe, you know, you can feel a little bit less lonely. Who has felt, who feels very angry? Yeah, it's good. It's good we know that we have this in this audience. Okay, so who came here tonight to meet like-minded people? Yeah, okay, so half of you. And who of you has still hope for justice and peace for Palestinians and Israelis alike? Wow. Okay. Okay, I think this is a very good starting point for this evening. So, in a few minutes, we will listen to the Freedom Lecture, of course, by Rula Daood and Alon-lee Green. They are the co-directors of Standing Together. And afterwards, I'm going to switch mics. Yes. Afterwards, I will talk with them, of course, a bit more about the current situation, about their goals and the strategies, their support base, both in Israel, Palestine, here in the West, and other places, but also the critique they face. And then we will be joined by Arella Graziani and Sobri Khatib, and we will discuss also the differences between, you know, activism inside and outside of Israel-Palestine, and the role of discourse and terminology, with also regard to activist strategy. And last but not least, the Balie organized this Freedom Lecture with Standing together with OIV. They are a radical, inclusive, grassroots Jewish group. And Jelle Zijlstra is one of their founding members, I think, community builder, activist. And I would just like to know, Jelle, why was it so important for OIV to bring Standing Together here to the Netherlands?
Such a coincidence that you might ask that. And I actually have a few words that I have prepared for this occasion. Is the mic on? Yes, it is. Great. Thank you, Meerte. And thank you, dear audience, for being here with us tonight and showing up in such great numbers. Also the people behind me, you are seen and felt. My name is Jelle, I'm with OIV, and before I answer your question, Meerte, there's a few things that I am, I think, required to say. So, OIV is a radically welcoming Jewish organization based in the Netherlands, And we organize discussions, events, and meetups that focus on Jewish themes. And as part of this work, we have curated a 5-day-long program for Standing Together, of which this event in the Balie tonight is the kickoff. There's a lot of people that I can thank in the room also tonight with us. I could name Judy, I could name Yair, Itai, and that's where I'm going to stop actually, because I might make a mistake. But there's a couple of people that I want to thank especially. And that is Zara Tuxis, who made this program possible. And my thanks also goes to Liefnat Faber from Oive, who worked tirelessly to make this week possible. The other public event with Standing Together will take place on the evening of the 26th at Rialto Movie Theater and is in collaboration with Movies That Matter, and there are still some tickets for that event. Standing Together will also be speaking at universities, with government officials, with local activists and change makers. Actually, the last time that I went through their schedule, I counted 18 separate meetings and events in 4.5 days, and I think it's even more, which is impressive. We as Oive are proud that Rula Daood and Alon-lee Green, co-directors of the Standing Together movement, are here with us tonight. Standing Together has been at the forefront of addressing the grim reality faced by people living in Palestine and Israel for decades now. A reality of violence, occupation, and forced displacement. A reality of trauma, dispossession, and settlement expansion. A reality of death and despair, the brunt of which is suffered by Palestinians, but the effects of which reverberate through Palestinian and Israeli society as a whole. For Oive, it is vital that we present a narrative that is not a zero-sum game. Us or them. Israeli or Palestinian. Safety for some, death and displacement for others. We need alternatives to this deadly discourse. We need to hear from people on the ground that are working to heal instead of to harm. Make no mistake, we will not cue Kumbaya or Heal the World or another fluffy song tonight. Standing Together's work is rooted not merely in the pursuit of unity for the sake of unity, but rather in the profound understanding that true justice in Palestine and Israel can only be achieved by challenging structural power imbalances and by seeking lasting change for all the people that call home the lands from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea. It's not merely peace that they seek. It is justice. Some of you may find some of the things that will be discussed tonight difficult to hear, or even hurtful. Our invitation is to sit with this discomfort, if it arises, to allow your views to be challenged and to learn from the incredibly challenging work of Standing Together. I thank you all for being here and for holding the space. I give the floor to Rula and Alon-lee. Thank you.
Yes. So a few words on Standing Together and our speakers. You can wait. I will give you a proper introduction. So, as was said, Standing Together is a progressive grassroots movement mobilizing Jewish and Palestinian citizens of Israel against the occupation and for peace, equality and social justice. And they were founded at the end of 2015. They are growing in size and influence, and they engage in conversations with thousands of people daily. And they are here tonight to explain their work and their theory of change. So we have tonight with us Rula Daood. She is the National Co-Director of Standing Together. a speech pathologist by profession, but she's a Palestinian citizen of Israel, born and raised in the Galilee village of Kafr Yassif. And she began her activism in her home city and later became involved in promoting Jewish-Arab partnership in mixed Jewish-Arab cities. Next to her, Alon-lee Green. He's also national co-director and founding of Standing Together. He founded Israel's first national waiters union, and from there he emerged as a prominent leader of Israel's social protest movement in the summer of 2011, and subsequently served as a political advisor in the Knesset of Israel's parliament. Rula Daood, I first give the floor to you. I think it's on. Yeah.
This one is on. Yes. Okay, so good evening. And I would say thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you for coming. It is always, I think, it amazes us, but also puts some pressure when we see a full room and we understand that it's a sold out. So thank you. But I must say I kind of prepared for a speech. When we traveled, when we knew we were coming here, we prepared ourselves to come and also to talk about the movement and what we do and how we do it. But I'm gonna switch a bit because many things have changed back home in the last 3 days. And as much as our work and the politics we do is the things that, you know, give us the power and the force to go out each and every day. Being here while our families, our parents, my family, being under direct bombardment right now by Lebanon, Hezbollah, after our government, the Israeli government, decided to launch a bigger war on the south of Lebanon, puts me in a place where physically I'm here, but my heart and my mind is back home. And constantly checking my phone to see that my parents are okay. Now that is the reality for at least 1 million people who live in the north of Israel. And that is a reality for I don't know how many people who live in the south of Lebanon. And that has been the reality of people who have been living for 11 months under bombardment in Gaza, and for people who are displaced from their homes, yet again from the south of Israel. And that reality is a reality that we live, unfortunately. This war, the 7th of October, wasn't the first war between Israel and Gaza. And I really do hope it will be the last one, and I really do hope it will end tomorrow, even now. But I do understand that hopes and dreams sometimes are not the reality because politics works in a different way. And the powers that we have do different actions. But with saying all of that and understanding all of that, I do believe it's the reason I wake up each and every day to fight, to demand. And I do want to take this place and say it from here also that the one and only demand that should be demanded by all of us right now is to stop a regional war in the Middle East, to stop the war on Gaza, to cease fire, to bring back the hostages home alive and not in coffins, to stop the destruction of the lives of innocent people in Gaza, the displacement, the hunger, the diseases that we see each and every day for 11 months. And if we should go out and demonstrate, there is no more justice thing to desire from our governments except to put pressure on our government that is choosing each and every day to continue this war. And that is the demand that you should be also demanding from your government. So again, thank you for being here tonight and wanting to listen to us. Standing Together, as you have heard, started at late 2015. And when we started back home, it was yet again in the same place where there was a war between Israel and Gaza. The streets were filled with anger, with violence, with hatred. Speaking Arabic in a bus was not something people would take easily. Going out in the streets of Jerusalem as a Jewish means being afraid that you might be stabbed or something bad will happen to you. And that reality made us understand that we need different political solutions and we need different political agenda. And it comes from, you know, basic understanding that all of us, people living back home, whether Jews or Palestinians, we deserve better than what we have right now and from what we've been having for the last decades. We deserve leadership that cares about us, but we also deserve a place where we can live in safety, in security, and also in independence. Yes, for both of us, independence. I was brought up in a very non-political home. Being a Palestinian citizen of Israel means that you are raised in a home that your parents don't want you to be a politician. They don't want you to speak about politics. They don't want you to do anything that is about politics. All they wanted me to do is to go to school, finish my degree, you know, get married, have kids, and that's it, and lay low. But daily life, as a minority, hits different when you go out and you want to be an independent, and especially a woman, a Palestinian woman, inside of the Israeli society. And when it hits you differently, you have to choose. What do? Do I stay low? Do I lay low and do nothing? Or do I take another step towards, you know, making some change or changing something within the society I live in? And yes, I am a Palestinian. I am part of the Palestinian people. The 20% who live within Israel, the people who live in the West Bank, the Palestinians in Gaza, and yes, the Palestinians who are outside as refugees. But I'm also part of the Israeli society, the society I was born into, the society that I live with, I work with, I go to demonstrations with. And from within that society, I want to make the change that is needed in order to secure all of us living in Israel, Palestine, a different kind of life. For now, we have seen 41,000 people killed in Gaza. 15,000 of them are kids, children. Most of them, people can't recognize them because their families, or all of them, dead. No infrastructure in Gaza. 101 hostages still within the tunnels of Hamas in Gaza. And with all of that, our government, who had deals on the table, chooses again and again and again to not go for a deal. And it chose, again, to open a regional war with Lebanon. And today, we know that more than 500 people, citizens in Lebanon, were killed by these bombings. And what we say is, we live in a place, and we live in a region where we understand that none of us are going to go anywhere. It's not like we're going to wake up someday and leave. And I know that some people have messianic ideas, or, you know, beliefs of maybe someday, you know, all of the Palestinians will just go to the sea, or maybe one day, you know, all of the Jews will go back to Europe. But our reality is very different. Our reality is very, very different from these ideas. And what we need to do, what we must do, especially after the 7th of October as a society, is to build a political power within our society to make that change. Because the only voice that was heard very loud within Israel after the 7th of October, after the horrific attack of Hamas, is the voice of right, radical, fascist, messianic people. People who dream of conquering Gaza, people who dream of conquering Lebanon. They want to conquer Syria and maybe also Iraq and have all of the big Israel. And that is the only voice people in my society hear. And when we strive to change, to do something in our society, we need to give other ideas. Being radical or being political, and especially at this time, I would think being also radical means to give people alternatives. As long as we don't have an alternative in our society, people will choose the only thing that they hear. And if the only voice that people hear in the society is the voice of radical people, they will not have any other political imagination. So since the 7th of October, 2 days after, we were the only movement who said, this can't go on. we need a deal right now. We need political solutions because we know what happens at these wars. More and more people will die. And at the beginning, people thought we were lunatics and didn't want to come out with us to the streets. And we felt a bit alone. But since that point and today, when we look at what's happening within our society, and yes, very bad things are happening, but today, 11 months after this horrible war, we know that more than 64% of the Israeli society wants this war to stop. And they want a ceasefire, which means going out to the streets, having campaigns that speak about a ceasefire of the people who are living in the land, makes a change and can make a change. So what we are doing each and every day and still doing, even that we are here today, is building that political will within our people to make that change. Because we deeply believe, yes, you can help us a lot, but we still believe that the only ones that can save us back home is us. And if we don't have in our minds that we need a change, nothing will really change for all of us back in Israel, Palestine. So please, when you go out of this room, and we will have a talk, and you want to go out to the streets and you want to shout out, be radical and speak about the people living in Israel, Palestine, and not their governments and leaders. Thank you.
So, hi, good evening, everyone. I also want to spice things up and not talk about what I prepared to talk. Maybe I will actually tell you about what we do and stuff, but I want to start with something else. On social media today, I published a video about our campaign to collect humanitarian aid to Gaza. 400 trucks that we managed to collect mainly from Palestinian villages and towns within Israel, but also from Jewish citizens that are showing up in masses to support this. And today we got to collect the first round of aid in Gaza to 150 Palestinian families, aid that is coming directly from citizens in Israel. And it was very moving. We both published some videos today. And I got we got a lot of, supportive comments, but we got two kinds of very, very smear and terrible and unpleasant comments. One was people writing me, wow, well done for your solidarity. You are the savior of us. You are doing something amazing for us, for the Palestinians. Palestinian people wrote me. And I feel I want to answer to them, and I always feel I want to answer to them. You know what? When I'm doing the work I'm doing, when we are doing the work we're doing, we're not only acting out of solidarity. We do have a huge part of solidarity. We are guided by values. We are guided by justice. There's no question about it. But I am also guided by my self-interest. I'm guided by the care to my family, to my society, by the care of what kind of a society I want to live in, by the question of what is my interest, what's my society's interest, whether it is represented by my government or actually my government speaks about being patriotic, but it's actually anti-patriotic, working against also the Jewish people in Israel. And I feel it's important to say that because it's not always understood. And another kind of reaction was, Am Israel Chai, go to live in Gaza. If you give food to Sinwar, and this is the only thing you do is to help our enemies. And to those people, by the way, writing both in Hebrew and in English and in other languages from Jews in the right wing across the world, I want to answer that you don't recognize the fact, the very simple fact, that there's only one way for us as Jewish people to live in safety. And that we cannot live in safety if millions of people are oppressed by us, if millions of people live under the occupation of our army without being the citizens of our country, waking up in the morning, seeing soldiers, foreign soldiers for them, with guns on the way to school, on the way to work, maybe not even being able to move freely, not being able to work, not being able to demonstrate. It is not legal. There's no legal way for Palestinians to protest. If you protest, you're violent and you get shot by live ammunition. And this is the daily reality. And if someone wants to try and tell us that this serves the interest or that this helps my security, my safety as a Jewish person in Israel, then they are lying and they're deceiving themselves and the public. Because there cannot be safety while you oppress others. There cannot be freedom while others are not free. And this is something very fundamental to understand also when we speak with international crowds. Because it is so easy to try and feel that you must speak a side. That you either need to hashtag stand with Gaza or Palestine or hashtag stand with Israel. But this is a lie. There will be no safety to Israelis without Palestinian freedom. There will not be Palestinian freedom if all the Israelis will not be safe and feel they need to act for their safety. And we need to understand that we came to this historic junction, this crossroads, where there's no ability to just continue to move forward. We are at the place where we need to choose. Either we take the apartheid that exists right now in the West Bank, where Jewish settlers have rights on a land where other people that are the majority of this land have no rights at all, and we extend it into the entire land of Israel and Palestine, and we suffer daily violence that is getting worse and worse. War not only with the Palestinians, but with the region, maybe with Iran, taking other people in the world to be part of this problem and the daily violence, or we choose to finally go for a compromise, to finally go to a historic resolution for this land, for the people that live there. And that means we need to understand there is only one path to achieve that. You can, choose to fight about names of a solution, 1 state, 2 states. You can choose about, to talk about terminology. We don't care about it. We care about a reality and which kind of reality we're going to have. And the reality we seek, the reality we demand is a reality where all the people on this land are equal, free, and independent. Because that's the only possible reality. Since October 7th, we've been working tirelessly to try and bring a different solution. Not to speak with people about who's just, who was there first, who started, who needs to go out of the land. A lot of people, if we're speaking about comments, people write me, go back to Europe. That's a different kind of people. Sometimes it even comes from the international left wing. You should go back to Europe. Live or go back to Poland even. No matter that my family is not even from Poland. But our answer to those people is that no one is going anywhere. And that the only thing you can, speak about is that 7 million Palestinians live on this land. 7 million Jews live on the same land. Both of us call this land our home. Both of us have the right to exist there right now. And we need to find solution. And speaking about that in Israel is speaking of an alternative. Because the political system in Israel is trying to push us, even stronger since the October 7th, since the horrible attack of Hamas, to a very extreme reality. They're trying to tell us there are no innocent people in Gaza. They're trying to tell us that even the kids in Gaza are going to be terrorists. The ones that we didn't kill in the war of 2014, we have a lot of wars between Israel and Gaza. This time we will eradicate Hamas, yeah. The ones that we didn't kill in 2014 are the ones that committed the massacre of 2023. And our answer to those politicians, extreme politicians, was to organize Jews and Palestinians together. In, first of all, a campaign to say that we stand together. We are all suffering from this horrible reality. And another war, another military invasion to Gaza, bombing innocent people in Gaza, it is not going to bring back the hostages. It is not going to bring back the dead. It is not going to bring us any safety. And we need a deal, a political, diplomatic deal to end the unsafety to us Jews and to secure the life of the hostages and the lives of Palestinians in Gaza. And then our answer to those politicians, when they tried to say, if they don't bring us back the hostages, if they have Hamas, they're going to starve. No more water to Gaza, no more electricity to Gaza, no more food to Gaza. Our answer was to try and organize food convoys to Gaza already in February and March that were stopped by the Israeli military and the Israeli army police, saying that we cannot bring anything to Gaza. And then when the international community started to put pressure and the food started to come into Gaza, settlers, violent settlers, started to attack those convoys. At the beginning, they just blocked the road and didn't allow them to get into Gaza. Afterwards, they started to set the trucks on fire, send the Palestinian truck drivers to the hospital, spill the food, celebrate it for 12 hours in one event without the police even showing up and stopping those settlers from attacking the convoys. And we decided we have to act. So we organized a humanitarian aid guard. 1,000 people of our movement coming together every day for a month and a half, standing between the settlers and the aid trucks, protecting them, trying to prevent them to take knives, which were directed at us sometimes, and to slash the tires of those trucks. And after a few days, the police started to show up, not because of the drivers that were Palestinians, not because of the food on the trucks, but because Israeli citizens were fighting with other Israeli citizens, and they didn't want these scenes. And then after a few weeks, we came in the morning to the checkpoints where the settlers were and we were, and the police was already there. So it was a successful way to make the police interfere. And since May 24, all the trucks that are going to Gaza are passing safely. And we managed to do that. It's not enough. Thank you. It's not enough. It doesn't stop the war. But it is a way not only to protest, not only to shout, but actually to create change. And now with the campaign of collecting aid to Gaza, we feel very proud to be able to do something, to be able to change not only the discussion, not only to build power of a different kind of politics, but to actually help people's lives. When we stand together with the families of the hostages, every night in the demonstrations, in the weekdays and in the larger demonstrations of the week, we feel we are creating change. We feel we are changing people's minds. But I want to end with this. We understand that this reality is a terrible reality. We understand that nothing good in the news, in the feelings, come out of this country. It's just more sorrow and more death and more grief. And we understand it makes people angry. We saw how many of you feel angry. We understand we all want to shout at this reality, to condemn this reality, to choose, the most extreme words to describe this reality, to say something that is sounding even more extreme than what we said a few months ago, because this reality continues and it doesn't change. But there's a very, very, very big change and difference between condemning reality and being able to move reality and to change reality. And we choose every day to try and change reality, not just to condemn it. So thank you.
Thank you. Just resonating with the words. I wanted to start with asking you some personal questions. Because a lot of time activism also has a price, and I'm really curious. I start with you, Rula. Your involvement with Standing Together. How has your family, your friends, are they all also part of the movement? Do they find it difficult you're part of the movement? What are the consequences of your involvement?
Well, 3 days ago. 2 days ago, I called back home and I talked to my dad.
You were in France, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. 2 days ago, we were in France. I called my parents, to check. The bombing started, and there was many sirens, and most of the Palestinian villages don't really have a shelter in the north, and many other villages also. So I just called to see what's happening, and he knew we had an event. Now, I'm 39 today, Like, I'm 39, not today. I didn't have a birthday. I'm sorry, I always do the same mistake. I'm 39. I've been in Standing Together since 2017. I do this, you know, each and every day. I wake up, speak in Standing Together, you know, actively and every day. And he knows that, but still, he told me, please don't say something stupid. Yes, please be careful. This time it's a very different time. It's very crucial. What's happening is very huge. So please be careful, because there will be cameras. And I said, yes, there will be cameras. And I do that because I know there are cameras, because I want to speak. And that is how my family reacts. I've been doing this for years. They are still scared for me, but they're very proud of what I do. They do support me a lot in many ways. But the fear they have is a legit fear, because both of my parents were, you know, born and raised during and under the martial laws in the north.
What did that mean for them?
It means that you couldn't leave your village if you didn't have, you know, an approval from the army or the police. It means you didn't have rights. You couldn't go out and demonstrate. Nobody really demonstrated, but still. It meant that your land wouldn't be taken and you can't say anything. And it meant that somebody can just go into your village and beat you. And that's it. It's
no
kind of a, you have no rights, basically. Yeah. And they were very afraid. Most of, you know, Palestinian citizens in Israel don't choose to be political. If you can choose, you will not, you know, be an activist, and you will not be going into politics, because you know that as a minority it's much harder to be political. When we go to the airport, on many occasions we get different treatment. It is because I am a Palestinian, and Alon-lee is Jewish, basically, and we know that, and it is a reality. So
sorry.
Yeah, you know, it's not your fault.
Yeah, for you, Alon-lee, what made you decide? I mean, you are the co-director of Standing Together, but did you also together started it, or did you start the movement? I don't know.
I was part of the group that started the movement.
Yeah. So what, on a personal level, made you start this movement? And how have your thoughts about being part of this movement maybe also developed, especially since last year?
I've been active for many years, even before the movement started in late 2015. I'm not that old, I'm 36, but I've been active since the age of 16. And I felt, I still remember this time before as if everything was always dramatic in Israel. Like, I was born on, you know, in the year and even the month of the first Intifada. I had my bar mitzvah around the second Intifada. I was not allowed to go on buses because they exploded, and my mom never had allowed us to even go on a bus. And it's all dramatic and happening very quickly, and there's a lot of protests against the reality in Israel. And I was very involved in a lot of protests, and I felt as if every time we start from the beginning, from the very start of trying to say that the government trying to pass a very racist law, or to lower the pension age, or to do something anti-democratic or that is hurting the people in Israel is not okay, so please come to our protest. And then we grow, and we sometimes we're able to even mobilize tens of thousands of people. In the social protests of 2011, that was a very historic protest in Israel. We managed to mobilize hundreds of thousands of people to the street. It was the equivalent of the Arab Spring in that time, and the Occupy Wall Street and the Indignados in Spain. And Israel's protest was the largest of them all. 500,000 people out of 7 million people at one night at the streets. Amazing. But then you wake up in the morning, and where is all this power? It spreads away. You don't feel that you did anything. You actually feel discouraged. We were so many people, but nothing happened. The government continues to do what they want. And I think slowly, a group of people that show that were actually meeting each other in all those protests decided that we need to build a vessel.
And am I correct, because I can remember that protest, but I can also remember that I think it had a different idea than Standing Together, because I think, you know, radical equality and justice for both Palestinians and Jews wasn't and Israelis wasn't the focus point of that protest, right?
No, it was about the housing prices and then the prices of living.
So when did you knew it for you? It was so important to have this joint movement.
I think that when I understood deeply that the only possible way to change the reality, when I was building a union in my coffee shop when I was 18, when I was part of the social protest a few years later, I understood always that the change, the ability to change, has something to do about my reality that meets reality of other people.
Yeah.
And that maybe those other people do not come from the same place as me, they don't have the same background as me, we are very different, but we suffer from the same problem, sometimes very differently. Sometimes someone can pay a much higher price than me, or I pay a higher price than them, but we still are suffering from the same problem. So it must mean we can find a common solution that we can fight for. And when you work in unions and you understand that workers' rights and working places are just bringing people together to the same reality, you understand that Jewish Arab partnership is not only about, principles and about values and about the right thing to do, it's also the best strategy because you build a majority.
Yeah. And for you, Rula, I think every grassroots movement has this problem, or every organization, that when you have all those different opinions, and sometimes you're just too busy with all the different opinions within the group, instead of doing the work you would like to do as a group. How do you deal with those different opinions within standing together?
Well, that's a great question. Because, also the left is very well known for having arguments.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Not agreeing, basically, and finding what do we do not agree on, and then just argue about it again and again and again. Yeah, I think, look, standing together, first of all, is a movement that is a democratic movement. We have an elected leadership that comes from our chapters all over the country. And our elected leadership today is about 80 people. And from that leadership, we elect a smaller leadership for the each and every day that we do. And when we have a vision and a strategy, and when we know that we are here as a movement to achieve basic things, we try to agree on these basic things. When Standing Together started, the first demonstration was against the occupation, against the government that is taking us into a place where there's much violence because there is an occupation and siege on Gaza. And when we called out for people to come and demonstrate, people were astonished when we saw thousands of people coming to the streets, and it made us understand that people wanted an alternative voice, something different to be done, and there was no real place within the Israeli politics for them. And that is how it started. But the main, thing, our theory of change is understanding that in where we live, the Israeli society, there are different societies, but the common things that we have between us are bigger than the things that we do not agree on. All of us want to live in security. All of us want to be able to bring food to the table we have. All of us want to end the month in dignity, and we want to be able to send our kids to schools that have good education. And understanding that these are basic things that most people want is building upon these things. So when we go out and we talk about standing together, our work is a work of wanting to have equality within our society, end of the occupation, the siege in Gaza, economic justice, social justice, and building that power is done by looking at the mutual things between societies and bringing them together into one mutual goal.
But before we go to your theory of change, I'm just curious, because as being a minority within Israeli society, how do you make sure you not become a minority within, for example, Standing Together? Or do you don't believe in that kind of, are you not thinking in those different groups within Standing Together?
Yeah. Well, I am a minority within the Israeli society, but I think one of the differences between Standing Together and other groups, and we don't really have other grassroots movement in Israel. We have parties. We have left, right, center. We have, Jewish parties, Palestinian Arab parties, and I tried most of them to be part of them, but in each and every one I felt there was something missing, and that missing thing is making me feel that I am again a minority, whether it was a Jewish or a Palestinian Arab list. And in Standing Together, my first action with Standing Together was understanding that this place is a safe place, as a political place that it's safe. In Standing Together, I'm not scared of talking about my identity. It does not scare people. Saying I'm a Palestinian doesn't make people scared. Saying that I am part of a minority, and if you want to stand next to me, if you want to fight, if you want to be equal, you must understand as a Jewish citizen of Israel that your first fight is for equality for me, because I am the minority and we've been living in a place of injustice for so many years. And when you get into a group of people that have that set of mind, you don't feel a minority in that group. And I think that was the main and basic things that made me feel more at home also in Standing Together. And the fact that it was the only movement that spoke Arabic. Politics are mainly spoken in Hebrew in Israel. And language is a barrier that you need to, it's a barrier. When people don't speak your language, it means that you are not part of the people. I think that there is a huge difference between Standing Together as a movement and other parties and political parties in Israel.
Yeah. When we go to because you just explained in the lecture, you gave a very clear example of what Standing Together has been doing since October 7 with the food transports, for example. Do you also do political lobby? And if so, what does it encompass? What do you do?
Yeah, so Standing Together before the war was organizing a lot of anti-racist, pro-social rights campaigns. One of the biggest struggle we had was to raise the minimum wage in Israel. Israel is a very expensive country. Tel Aviv is one of the most expensive cities in the world. We have higher and higher prices all the time, but our salaries next to the other most expensive countries are much lower. So there's a very big gap between what we earn and what we need to pay every month, which means that our salaries are actually shrinking all the time. And the minimum wage in Israel was not raised for so many years, so we decided to actually bring communities together that are the ones that are earning minimum wage, Palestinian citizens of Israel, Haredi, ultra-Orthodox women especially, ex-Soviet Union immigrants to Israel, and Mizrahi people, the Mizrahi community in Israel, to fight to raise the minimum wage. At the beginning, we went into different cities and started standing in the entrances to supermarkets to sign people. The prices inside just got higher and higher, but our salaries stayed the same. That ain't right. So please sign in support to raise the minimum wage to 40 shekels an hour instead of 30 shekels an hour. Then we started going into the ultra-Orthodox cities and the Palestinian cities in Israel, starting to sign them and bring them into WhatsApp groups and organize those communities in favor of a bill that we wrote and suggested in parliament with a coalition of Haredi parliament members, Likud right-wing parliament members that represent Mizrahi people, and Palestinian parliament members. They didn't bring this bill. We actually brought this bill and asked them to champion it, to be signed on that. We do not agree with most of these parties. Actually, we don't agree with any specific party in Israel, because we have a real crisis. Maybe you actually know it from here. We have a crisis of representation in Israel.
Is there any political party you feel affiliated with?
No, and that's the point I'm actually getting to. We were working with the political parties, but we actually challenged them. Why aren't you doing this work? Why do we need to come and tell you to fight for the people? We challenged them. It was the time of the Change Coalition, which was another right-wing coalition in Israel, and we managed to pass in a preliminary voting the minimum 40 vote, not because the government wanted it, not because the opposition wanted it, but because we had power in their parties. We organized their base. And this is the thing we do. We challenge the political parties by presenting an alternative, but also asking the question of how does power look like? And power doesn't look like just speaking or just, debating or having a podcast or, I don't know, trying to convince people that your position is the most right or the most just or the purest. Power comes when you work with people. Power comes when you are able to look at the structure of your society and understand how to move the needle, how to create change. And I think that was a good example of how we managed to raise the minimum wage in Israel.
And this I can understand because it's all in your theory of, having a goal that is, important for a lot of people, and work towards this common goal. But now, let's talk about the ceasefire. There is, what I read, there is no incentive for the Netanyahu government, to have a ceasefire because it will probably mean his downfall.
Yes.
Yeah.
How, as a grassroots movement, can you deal with that reality?
I think. Go. You can. Yeah, come on. I think when we look at what's happening since the 7th of October and the voices that we have, the fact is that it is the 11th month and this government hasn't given people any solutions. It's jumping from one war to another war in order to stay, as a government. No elections are going to be held, not in the next month, and I think not in the next year or 2 years even. The lack of leadership or of any other alternative voice is really felt within the Israeli politician, and that is where we come in. That's our work, what we have been doing since the 7th of October. Communities, when you look at society or a community, as I've said, as long as you don't give people other ideas, as long as you don't speak about, not just solidarity, but also self-interest in what's happening, nothing can change. A political imagination will not be opened, and especially in a society where, Bibi Netanyahu is a prime minister for now 10, 12...
All our lives.
All our lives, yeah.
Yeah, like some people, some kids who are born today didn't know any other prime minister. So political imagination is not something that we do or have on each and every day. And we need to bring people ideas that can, initiate that. Yeah. So when we talk about, when we go out to the streets, we talk also about the self-interest of people. Yeah. At times of war, if we're not talking about the people who are being killed, dying, sent to kill other people and to also be killed in Gaza, we can also talk about what's happening to our society. The Israeli society right now is going into a much more radical place with the minister Ben Gvir, with a police that is serving his agenda, not the people agenda, with our education system that has no real money going into it, and with not giving people the budget that they need, that budget goes to the war. Instead of giving us better conditions, thank you. Instead of giving the people better conditions, all of that budget also goes to war. And at the same time, we see nothing happening. 101 hostages are still in Gaza. Another war is opening. There's a huge front that's going inside. So when we talk about the self-interest also of people, it's a huge self-interest of not wanting to go into more and more wars that will not bring any difference. And that voice is heard. And that voice brings and opens a different, political imagination for people.
Because what we hear, I think, what I hear, because I don't know what we all hear, but is that a lot of Israeli progressive people, who were against the occupation and have really shifted because of what happened on October 7th. And I saw this interview with the daughter of Amos Oz. I don't know if you, but for here in the Netherlands, Amos Oz is was this voice of reason. And then also she said on, I think, television or something like, this is what we do in Gaza, it needs to be done, you know? So I don't want to be, but how do you deal with, you know, when the mindset also of the people who maybe first supported you has changed because of a traumatic event?
I want to touch on this point, but together with the last question, and to say that it's completely discouraging and heartbreaking to see what is going on with our society at the moment, and to see mothers of hostages and family members of hostages begging to the government to accept the deal to release their family members, crying in the streets, shouting, getting arrested by the police, beaten by the police, beaten by right-wing organizations that are coming to, you know, kick them while they're on the street. It is heartbreaking. And understanding that this government has the ability, the political majority in Knesset, while they lack the majority in the public, because every poll shows that if there will be election right now, they will be kicked out. Yeah. What kind of government will come? I agree, it's a good question. But Netanyahu will not survive. Ben-Gvir will not be the Minister of Police. Seeing this is heartbreaking. And understanding that they have the power to influence deeply the Israeli society, to shift the positions of people because they have the loudest megaphone possible. That they have the power to see that international pressure is telling them to accept the deal, but they have the card of another war, and another front, and another attack, and another assassination. This is extremely worrying because not the external threat will bring our demise. We will be our demise ourselves. This government will end the state of Israel, will end the safety of Jewish people. Hamas is a terrible, terrible entity that created the most horrific, barbaric, and monstrous attack possible on October 7th. They killed innocent people. They killed children. But this government, what it will do to us is far worse than any external enemy. And it needs to be understood. And the fact that our society is collapsing, literally collapsing, that people are turning against each other, that it's not safe to be expressing your opinion anymore, that people feel that they need to, I don't know, be ashamed that they are speaking about the interests of the people, which is not the occupation, which is not the oppression of Palestinians. It is scary. And I think that in the beginning, a lot of people were afraid because of this shock, because of the shock doctrine that also came with October 7th. And a lot of our supporters, even members in the movement, mostly Jewish members at this point in October, when we, on October 9th, were the first political entity in Israel to use the word deal. People thought we're crazy. They asked us, deal with whom? The one that just murdered us? The one that held 250 hostages at this time? And we said, yes, this is the only way to bring people back home. Not bombing people, not seeking revenge, not killing innocent people, but actually reaching a deal. And members in the movement, like Fania, the daughter of Amos Oz, who actually has a purple circle in her Twitter. It's a recognition sign in her Twitter. She didn't take it off, by the way. It's still there. We can't control who puts the purple circle. People like that wrote us emails saying, I'm leaving the movement. I don't agree with you. This is a necessary war. There's no other choice but to go to this war. And now the spaces has opened up, and more people join the protest that reach hundreds of thousands of people against the government, demanding a ceasefire agreement that will bring back the hostages. Yes, not all of them are doing it out of solidarity to the Palestinians. Not everyone in the streets are saying, I care about the babies that Israel kills. But you know what? We accept it. When people recognize their self-interest and they understand it is not what the government is trying to do, when people understand that the government is bringing them to the lack of safety, to their own demise, we prefer them to be in the street with us, demanding the resignation of the government, demanding the end of the war. And when you feel the anger, when you feel these feelings in the street, you take one step forward. And you also understand that there's another people living with you, and oppressing them will not bring your own security.
Thank you. Very clear. Before we go to our other two panelists, I really want to address one last thing, because when I was Googling you, I also quickly...
I think I know your question.
What?
I think I know your question.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a statement by the boycott, divestment, sanction, the BDS movement.
Yeah.
Our favorite topic.
Yes. But if I don't do it,
please.
you know, so, yeah.
Please.
So on their websites, it's stated that this like Standing Together Israeli normalization organization is intellectually dishonest and seeks to whitewash Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza. Very harsh words, and of course I want to know your response, but then focus, I thought, on the normalization argument.
Yes.
That they make.
They say we're normalizers, basically, or they say I am a normalizer. Or the whole movement.
I think
because it's
all of the above.
Yes,
yeah.
Normalizing is basically one thing they use against Palestinians.
Does anyone know what normalizing is? No, maybe you should explain it very quickly. What is normalizing?
Okay, I will start with that, but no, you want to explain it first, and I will say what it means in real life.
When people use it, they mean that you work together between Palestinians and Israelis under the existence of the power dynamics of the occupation and the oppression of the Israeli state, and you normalize the occupation by cooperating with Israelis or Jewish Israelis.
Yeah, that is the definition of it. But reality is, when you are born, you know, in a place where you are a citizen of a certain country, you are a citizen. Like, normalization is my life. I am born into that reality, not in a way as it's defined, but reality for 20% of the Palestinians of Israel is that reality. I go to schools in my town, yes, but budgeted by the Israeli government. I go to university, I learn Arabic, Hebrew, and English. I go to work, I go out demonstrating. My friends are Jews, Israelis, Palestinians. That is reality. So coming from a place, and I do have a lot of criticism, when you come from a place where you, I don't know, sit somewhere else in Europe or the US, and you look on, you know, the news and the media, and you decide to write something down, and you think that is the most right thing to do, you have a problem if you don't understand our reality. Our reality is very different from what people write on an academic paper. Our reality is a reality of a constant conflict, struggles, each and every day, waking up, wanting to do something to change something in the society we live in. And yes, we do live in a society. Yes, we do live in a society that is inside the borders of a country that it's called Israel. And yes, that country is occupying my people in the West Bank. Yes, having a war for 11 months on my people in Gaza. And yes, I don't have the same rights as Alon-lee has inside of Israel as a state. That all of these are, you know, right things. But to go out and to eliminate everything else and to say to the only people at times of war right now within that Israeli society who are waking up each and every day and trying to understand how to fight the government that we have as whitewashing, they said, it would be just, you know, being complete lunatic and not understanding reality. When you want to be in favor of the people, you cannot boycott the people. You cannot boycott whole societies. Boycott ministers. Boycott those who give guns and more money to the Israeli government in order to continue the war in Gaza. Yes, please do boycott them, but don't boycott people who wake up each and every day into a horrible reality, trying to change that horrible reality. If you are a real, you know, fighters of freedom, you need to understand that, again, the only ones who can change what's happening is us. So if you want to put power to more of a change within the Middle East, within Israel-Palestine, you shouldn't be boycotting anybody who is part of Standing Together or any organization that is working against this war, against the occupation, and against the siege on Gaza.
What hurts you more? What makes you more angry when this criticism comes from fellow Palestinians or from, like, white activists?
Just saying, it was never translated even into Arabic.
Yes.
They didn't bother translate this message into Arabic, only in English.
What it hurts? Well, I think what hurts more, it's always when it comes when somebody who's Palestinian or an Arab, because it means that, again, we are put in that place where people from outside decide on us without understanding also our own reality. And yes, that criticism comes only from abroad. Palestinians within Israel, Palestinians, I think, even West Bank or Gaza, people don't, you know, when they issued that statement, nobody really cared from back home. It doesn't really affect our lives. It's more of an academic discussion of what kind of a terminology do we use? How do we talk about other people? How do we bring things to become more extreme? Because we actually can't really change reality. So we sit down and we write stuff. And that kind of politics, I don't know if you even can call it politics, is not what we do. Yep. Our work is not to condemn and to write papers and to bring, you know, a language in a different level. Our work is to understand how do we change the situation that we have right here, right now, and on the ground.
Okay, then now it's a really good time to introduce the other two panelists. I would like to welcome Rula Daood. She's Associate Professor at the Department of Anthropology at the UvA and co-founder of Gate 48, a platform for Israelis living in the Netherlands who oppose the occupation of the Palestinian territories and calls for resistance. Rula Daoud. And my other guest is Sobhi Khatib. He's a storyteller, writer, and activist with a Palestinian background. His work focuses on diversity, inclusion, innovation, and communication. Sobhi Khatib. Welcome to you both, Sobhi and Rula. Yeah, so my first question is a really simple one. Sobhi, why did you decide to come here tonight and sit at this table?
To be the critical voice in this room.
To be the critical voice.
More critical, yes. There's a lot of points I took, honestly. I don't know where to start.
But no, let's stop here. You wanted to come here to be the critical voice.
Yeah. So let me start by saying I admire some of the work you do, and I think it's important. But I also have a lot of critique. And so I thought it is a good opportunity to discuss, not only to discuss because the left likes to dwell into things, which is also true, I think, although it happens on the right as well, but also because I think some voices might be missing exactly because of the last point of like the BDS, because I know some other people refused to join because they said, no, I will respect the BDS and I will not be on this table. I personally think discussions should be made, especially with people that I would say align with you, especially like on the short term to end the genocide in Gaza and end what's happening in Palestine in general and what's happening in the Middle East. And that's why I came here.
Oh, thanks. Great that you're here.
Thank you.
Rula, same goes for you. Why did you decide to come here? And how have you experienced it so far?
Well, yeah, there were some surprising points, definitely. But I think it's very important, first of all, that you're here. I really think it's really important, and I think that I also came here to shed some light on what it means, like what activism means here in the Netherlands, in this setting as an organization of critical.
I think you should. Yeah.
As being part of an organization of critical Israelis, being active here for many, many years, also working with many organizations, many grassroots organizations, so that there are no grassroots beside you, I would definitely not agree with. We've been working for almost 20 years with many organizations there.
No, yeah, is there a mic on?
Ik zit er bijna, ja. Moet ik helemaal zo?
Yeah, you have to speak like that.
Sorry, ja, zo goed?
Is this better? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah? Okay.
And maybe a little bit, I mean, we don't have a lot of time, but still you don't have to talk really fast.
Yeah, that's what I do. You can ask me a lot of things. Talking slowly is not one of them. I will do my best. So, so basically, very briefly, I'm part of an organization for critical Israelis here in the Netherlands, and I think to talk about what activism means here is important, and it's also very different. And I think that when we talk about narratives, for example, versus or words or language, well, I'm an academic, so yes, language does matter to me. And I think it's really important to see what it means to be active here, where we have the privilege, much more than you have on the ground, and I think it's a big difference, to think very carefully about what concept we use, and I think importantly also that the concept that we use and language that we use is making reality also in Israel-Palestine very much. So, so yeah, this is I think kind of
clear. We will come back to this terminology and also being privileged to use that. But I mean, you have your whole booklet there with critique points, and I don't think we can.
We're eager.
We're eager. So if you should choose two, please, which one would you really like to share with us here?
Okay. I think the first one is something that you both said, so I think maybe it's an important one. This thing that there are people who have this dream that the other side will disappear the next day.
Sorry, that what?
That one people will disappear or will leave or will go away the next day. I think it's an important thing to talk about because it's true. The Palestinians were calling for the Jews or Israelis or Zionists in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s to go back. That was true. But since the establishment of the PLO in '65, not one single Palestinian entity, not Hamas, not Fatah, not Jihad Islami, not Jabha Sha'bi, none is calling for that. None of them. And I think it's important to mention this because when you look at this political reality on one side and you look at the political reality on the other side, the Israeli side, and you see how many voices are calling for the exact opposite, this is, I think it's important also not to equate like, you know, the oppressed and the oppressor, but also to see how you have other sides that I disagree with all of them, very honestly, have also like, you know, that inclusion space to say, okay, we are not against people as people, we are against specific ideology. And we propose solutions, and then their solutions are different. So I think this is one point that like I wrote down, I think it's important to mention. The other point is about, I would say, the working together part, which is also like essential for what you bring. And I think you have recognized like the privilege you have as a Jewish Israeli. And I think, you know, when you talked even about the guards for the humanitarian convey, I'm sure like the ones who felt to be able to be there are the Jewish Israelis, because Palestinians know that, well, they will be hurt and not much will be happening to them. And so for that point, I think, like, you know, the working together in such a place where your privilege is so dominant and your underprivilege is so clear, I think working together, and I think this is maybe where this like whitewashing that the BDS calls for is there coming from. But I think those types of working together have been tried so many times in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and until so many movements tried that. And that wasn't really powerful enough because you will end up with a base of Palestinians who basically cannot join other places because they will feel more protected with a Jewish Israeli frame. For example, like, you know, when you collected the donations for Gaza, which is a very blessed movement, and it's great that you did it, not one single Palestinian entity dared to do so because they knew.
Okay, let's react.
All the political parties even did the same.
Yeah, true. But
let's,
like,
because I think you made your points really clear, and I feel that there's like someone wants to react.
Please go for it. Yeah, go.
Are we reacting?
You're done?
Well, I have a lot,
because
but
I think because I think there's already a lot to react to, and otherwise it's just, you know.
Yeah, you want to? No, I think it's obvious that he has more privilege than I do. Of course it's obvious. But I do want to correct you on that. Humanitarian aid was collected by other organizations before us and by Palestinian, you know, organizations within Israel. And some of them were able to push that into Gaza. But the only thing that, you know, our aid made much noise because we are more organized, and it was basically a whole month of celebration and also a demonstration. Like the aid collecting was a huge demonstration for the Palestinian community inside of Israel, because it was basically the first time people were able to do something for Gaza, or to say the word Gaza without being afraid
so that's exactly
something will happen to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and I think they did that. The feeling was there, not because, Jews were standing next to us, and they were standing next to us and with us there. It was because we felt the power we had as a community when we were collecting and organizing and moving from one Palestinian village to another. The lack of... When you live in Israel, the system is that as a Palestinian, you feel that you don't have the power. That's what the system takes out of you. And leadership hasn't been able to bring, our youngest to a place where they feel that they can do stuff. They can be in a place where they can be active politically, socially, and in many ways. And that campaign enabled people to be in a place where they are safe, because they were with their people and not just alone, not standing by themselves, with their people, other Palestinians. And it enabled them to reach out and to feel part of something that was bigger. And it brought that leadership into people's. And it's not because it was held by also Jews, it's just because it was done by masses. Hundreds and thousands of Palestinians came to donate and to do something in that month, and it was a celebration for some of us. For many people, it was the first time they could even say the word Gaza, and it was because they felt they were into a bigger group of them, of other people also doing, not just them by themselves. That is how I see it, and that's the point from what I see it. And I do wanna. I'm gonna try to say it in English in the best way, because in Arabic it will be better. But I think one of also the things we fall into when we say that the system has taken from us the ability to understand and believe in what we can do, is that we also don't clap for ourselves when we are able to do something. And going out in this month of humanitarian aid, we should be clapping for ourselves, because we were able to do something. To stay in a state of mind that we can do it only if we have other partners, it's something that the system puts in us. We did it because we wanted to do it. In 2019, the amount of Palestinians who were shot by other Palestinians inside of Israel because of the violence, the police not caring, the guns everywhere, came to more than 150. Today we are almost 300. And what happened when the demonstration started, it was that the police shot 2 brothers in a village in the north, and people called the police. The police didn't come for 40 minutes. They bled in front of their mom and they died. And then a group of 15 young people from the same village decided to go out and demonstrate on the same police station. And the demonstration became a bigger demonstration. For a whole month they stood and demonstrated, and that demonstration went from one place to other place to other place and to other place. And the organization that was made within that act was huge, and it continued for 2 years until COVID came. For 2 years people were in their homes, and then we started going out again. And we did that as a collective of people who have power, understand they have a power. Okay? And I do want to say that because we need to clap for ourselves when we are able to do under circumstances where we are more, oppressed, and also to see what we can do at these times, and not just look at the things that we can do, only because Jews came with us. That is, I do hope I explained it in a good way, because it's in English also.
I want to actually also, I need to, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I also have to go to...
I will be quick, and I will
very quick,
and I will just say that not lucky for us, we don't live in comfortable Europe. We live on a land full of murder, death, grief. Terrible, terrible, terrible existence for Palestinians, for sure, which pay the ultimate price, but also for Jewish people, which we recognize the fact that they also pay a price, and we recognize the fact that both people can benefit from a different future. That's the basic theory of change, of standing together. Now, if someone thinks that somehow international pressure or writing these kind of words or living in academia papers or publishing statements online changes reality, they're delusional. It doesn't change reality. It didn't change anything else for us. Palestinians in Palestine and in Israel didn't even read. No one even wrote us about it. Only people wrote. 1 second.
No.
The other thing, one second. The other thing, if someone thinks that the resistance, that armed resistance, that sometimes even hurt innocent people, which is not moral, and we need to condemn and not to agree with it. If someone thinks that it will win over the Israeli army and somehow win freedom for Palestinians, they are also delusional, which leaves us with only one strategy. And it is the people that live on this land. And there are both people that live on this land, and the Palestinian people and the Jewish people, and it's either we liberate ourselves together or we're not liberated at all.
Yes. Of course, you can react to this. And Rula, I also want you to react, because there was a lot here about academic papers and terminology.
I know more than about academic papers.
Sabri and Rula.
Yeah. So first of all, well, thank you for sharing. That wasn't exactly my point. My point was more about when you want to change reality in a place where the privileges of people are very different, you need to work within the privileged group. If you will go to a place where you have, for example, like, if we go, for example, like Black Lives Matter, if we think about, like, the US and what's happening with the black movement, you would need the black movement, and then you will have white people who are allies. They're not the leaders. They're not in the front. Or you will have people inside the privileged group that will try to convince their peers.
It's not blacks
I didn't
against white.
interrupt you,
Sorry.
can I? Yes. Thank you. So, or you would work within your privileged group to try to change that reality, because that's what's important. When you when also, like for the last thing you talked about, that outside pressure didn't change, it did change. This is how South Africa apartheid ended, because of the outside pressure.
Wasn't Nelson Mandela?
There was, he was in jail.
Yeah.
But we need to realize that if tomorrow the US will decide that there's no much support for Israel, regardless the government, Israel will need to change internally.
I hope it will happen.
Well, I also hope so. But I just say that, we need to realize that the external pressure will change things. Yeah. And internal pressure also works. But also, we need to realize that, activism is super important, but it's exactly as important as any armed resistance. It will create pressure, but it cannot fully change things, because they have...
Including the killing of babies?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
No, armed resistance.
I'm talking about the impact that this have on changing reality. I'm talking about how much, we are waiting change, if you really want to wait change. Because the thing that we need to realize that the current government is a criminal one, is a bad one, blah, 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 but it's not the main problem.
And Sabri, what do you feel, because you, in your bio, it also says you're an activist.
Yes.
What do you feel that from the outside, and also outside power, you can do to put pressure on?
I think the pressure needs to come from all the directions possible.
Yeah.
The people outside should call for boycotting, not people, but maybe boycotting the Israeli products, boycotting, the Israeli officials, boycotting all of those Israeli things. Definitely. Things need to happen also from within. If you want to be radical, I think you need to call for anti-Zionism. You need to call for, the core of, I would say, discrimination and the differences of privileges between people. Because if we talk about the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza, if we don't talk about, where it all started, if we don't talk about what happened in the Nakba in 48, if we don't talk about all of those things, you work within Israel, but then you also definitely work also within the Golan Heights, which is also a Syrian occupied territory. If we don't realize that all of those things are connected issues, we don't really realize the reality, and we just look at the short term of changing Netanyahu, changing Ben Gvir.
You really think we don't understand, or you think we have a strategy? Because maybe there is a bit of a difference between thinking things and then deciding how to express things, and this thing, the gap between, is also a strategy. Because if you have a people that is here, and you choose to be here, where they cannot hear you, see you, where you cannot lead them, maybe you're doing something that makes you feel good, you tap on your shoulder, you express your stomach. But maybe politics is about seeing your people and standing where they can see you, where you can lead them. Maybe if you want us to use the words that make you feel good, that entertain you, is not about creating the change.
No. Erela, I really want to go to you. Because you said from the outside pressures of activism, terminology and narratives are important. And Alon-lee is here saying, like, what should we do with those?
Sorry, stop talking.
Yeah.
No, I think it's important to see the difference, because I think it's really important to say also here in the context where we are sitting here in Amsterdam, that the work that you do is so super important because it happens in a context, in a setting that is extremely violent and extremely silencing and extremely racist. And I think that it's really important to really understand it within this context and within this need for direct action on the ground. And I also understand the need for pragmatism in this situation. So definitely. So I think that's really important for people to understand, why this is so unique. Also, I wouldn't say like, as I said before, it's the only organization. There are other organizations of, Israeli Jews and Palestinians working together. But I think it's very important. Now, this pragmatism, I think the situation here makes it very different. I don't think that we, again, and that because we are, as you said also, we are here in Europe in a much more privileged position. We're dealing with a much different audience. Our work is very different.
And why is it so important in additional to what Standing Together does? Why is the work you do here, so talking to this audience here, important for their cause?
Well, I think if we're talking about pressure and international pressure, and I think that is something that my organization, Gate 48, we have been doing this, again, almost for 20 years, bringing these stories from Israel-Palestine and trying to get pressure and trying to, first of all, to influence public debate here, giving information on what is happening, and not from kind of talking heads, but really from grassroots organization, but also talking to politicians, doing lobby, and trying to really put pressure, international pressure, because that is something that we can do from here, and also making transparent what kind of relationships that Europe, the Netherlands, specifically the universities have with Israel. And what does that mean that we legitimize, for example, Israeli institutions or the market? What can we do?
Is Gate 48 in favor of an academic boycott?
We don't have. You can ask me. I mean, we don't have. Yeah,
are you in favor?
I think. I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding about what an academic boycott is. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that people have to understand, first of all, that an academic boycott is a boycott of institutions and not of persons. Many people don't understand this. So I think it's a very good idea to make the institutions that are complicit in the genocide that's happening now in Gaza and any other violence in the occupation for many years, that they feel the pressure and they are supported by the Israeli state in any kind of way, harboring also, the Israeli military on their campuses, while at the same time supporting really critical, progressive academics,
so for example,
Jewish and Palestinians.
For example, tomorrow they go to the University of Amsterdam. Within the context of a cultural boycott,
yes.
Would they still be welcome at the? Yeah,
of course, but because it's not working together with an Israeli institution that's complicit with genocide. Yeah. So that's completely different. And I can work with people, and I work with also Israeli academics. I do not work with academic institutions in Israel. People ask me this a lot. That's why I'm saying it. We can do this, but I think we really have to make this distinction. And in that way, I think, and also my Israeli colleagues of, for example, Academia for Equality, are asking for. Please, understand that we also, many of them, not all, call for this kind of boycott. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I could seriously talk for hours, but I see it's I'm already late, and I also really want to give our audience a chance to ask questions. Yeah, I know, you have all your critique points. Yeah, I'm really sorry. The thing is, at the Balie, you already saw we have this bar, and we really hope you will stay, and that the third round's at the bar. And maybe with a drink, the points are also a little less harsh. But first, let me go No, because we invited also some people, they're here behind me. Yes, here are Shea Khan and Itai Garmi, and they are from Bekend Maakt Bemind. I don't know, does everyone knows them here in the audience? Yes? I hope that in 1 minute you can pitch who you are, because it's important, and then you can tell me how you have been listening to this talk. I begin with you, Shea.
Good evening, all. First of all, a lot of respect for our guests. I really admire both of your works, and we do both support you guys a lot. Thanks for what you're doing. My name is Sheher Khan. I'm a local politician here in Amsterdam from the party Denk. And, we started to have... when I first started, when I got elected in 2022, I didn't know Itai Garmi when he came into the local council. But, you know, there were some frames going over and back about him and about me. And we started to not let the frames about each other lead our or be a kind of an obstacle to not know each other, but really be interested in the story of the person who's sitting next to me. And luckily I did it, because in the last year and plus, we did a lot of, we went to schools to talk about Israel Palestine. You know, I'm from a party that is overtly pro-Palestinian. Itai is Jewish Israeli. And the first thing we said was that, you know, you have your own point of view, how you look to society, but there's something behind that. Behind that is the shared values that you both share. And I think I saw that a lot in your talks as well, trying to create a shared platform where you can unite all different peoples of different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and different political views. So you were talking, I was just nodding, and now I have to ask you a question, but... you can also just well, but if I have the chance, I would like to do it. I'm a politician. One question I do have is that I think you said that when it comes to the Israeli Knesset, you said, well, maybe we don't like to lobby with the political parties, or you do talk to them, but you don't stand behind a political party. I think that's good, as saying that also as a politician. But I do think that lobbying is very effective, and lobbying is essentially for the work you guys are doing. And I also say this when I come into society, like especially with people who vote for my party, is that there's very low political participation. People don't understand the power of politics. And I always say, do subscribe us, do write us letters, do everything in your power to make your cause known. So I was just wondering if you guys can expand on that a little bit more. Like, how do you actually do political lobbying? How does it work? And what are your views on that?
Yeah, no, answer now. That's good.
We don't go in the Knesset halls and do lobby work immediately, you know, with Knesset members. We believe that by organizing people in the streets on certain issues, they can put the pressure on their representatives and the Knesset. So, for example, when we did the minimum wage for 40 shekels, we organized different groups of people all over the country, and those people went out to the streets to demonstrate, and those same people went to their Knesset members and knocked on their doors and went to the Knesset and talked to them and made them basically agree to something that we wrote down. So we didn't do, you know, a very direct way of lobbying, but we pushed people to understand that they have the power to make a change, okay? And that kind of activism and again, political imagination is very lacking from within people in our society. And look, Standing Together is there for 9 years. We are not young, but we're not an old organization. And working with people and gaining people's trust takes a lot of time. And to gain people's trust, it's not just about having victories, but also showing people that they also have the power to make a change. And that is, I would say, the kind of lobby we do by working with the people.
Itai, do you have a question for them or a reaction?
Yeah, so very shortly, my name is Itai Garmi. I'm a city council member for Volt. First of all, I also wanted to say thank you because you give me hope. I get really despaired of all the violence I see and the way people talk about everything that's happening there. And I really feel the things you're saying about people that are very privileged here and they just put stuff online that can be very hurtful to others. And then I always tell to myself, okay, I need to visit the Standing Together account and just see what's going on. And it inspires to see that there are people building bridges. And I hope others also take this as an inspiration to their own communities to build bridges with anyone on any topic. And secondly, I mean, I also recognize a lot of the things you said about the personal attacks that you get in your own community, sometimes not wanting you to take the step forward. And I mean, people who do take the step forward need to accept that you will get hit for it, but you will also get a lot of positive reactions, and you will see that's the only way to make a change. I completely agree with you on that. I don't see any other way than the path that you're walking on. And if I have to ask a question, I really believe in political representation, and I'm also trying to see in Israel if there's new hope, and there's a new leftist party, and I saw also that you were critiquing it today, criticizing it today, and I guess that's also fine, but I now, because I also visited you in Israel, and you were busy in local politics, are you maybe also thinking about national politics and thinking about changing the political representation because you have such a strong movement?
We're such political animals, both. You can only, yeah.
I can quickly answer that there is a need for political representation. There is an ability to change reality in places where decisions are being made. Unfortunately, the Palestinian society in Israel is being suppressed in their voting, oppressed also to not go and vote. Only 49% of the Palestinians in Israel go and vote, and it is because of systematic racist intimidation of them to not go and vote. But the change that we are looking, the ability to end occupation, the ability to end Jewish supremacy, the ability to end the lack of security to all the people that live on the land, the ability to end this reality of oppression for so many decades will not come if we will put 5 nice parliament members in parliament, maybe even a good day 8. Okay? We will vote, we will have nice speeches, we will be able to speak in committees, but it will not be enough. I don't know one case of a prime minister or parliament member in history waking up in the morning and saying, today I woke up on my good side, maybe I will give votes for women. Women got to vote because of social movements, because of fights, because of being consistent and persistent into achieving this with the public, with the people.
Okay, I'll give room to 2 questions from the audience. And bear in mind, is this question interesting for everybody or just for me?
Well, I guess everyone thinks it's for everybody.
You can do it. Yeah, so we do the gentleman in the back. I thought you put down your hands. No? Oh. Yeah. Okay, then we do 3. 1, but it's all gentlemen. Wait.
Oh, no, that we cannot have.
I have one there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait 1 second before I give you the mic, because I just want to make sure. Then I just
Gender balance.
A gentleman in the back, woman, I don't know, gentleman here. Yeah. So, and then the rest is at the bar. I'm really sorry, but otherwise people need to go to trade. Yeah.
All right, I'll try to be very quick. Rula, when asked about the BDS statement, you said, quote, you cannot boycott the people. I feel, should I speak louder? Okay. When asked about the BDS statement, you said, and I quote, you cannot boycott the people. This dodges the criticisms. 1, because BDS guidelines are clear on individuals, not that they should not be boycotted on the basis of their national identity, for example, as it relates to the academic boycott. And secondly, as far as I know, BDS hasn't put out similar statements targeting, for example, B'Tselem or breaking the silence. So why is that? And then, Alon, this wasn't my original question, but to quote you, let's spice it up a little. I think accusing your fellow panelists of implicitly endorsing the killing of children was a disgusting low blow. And I commend Subhi on maintaining his composure despite repeatedly being condescended to and talked down to. You're clearly sincere in your work, but it's hard to take your claims seriously about wanting a shared future for two people if this is how you engage with someone who is clearly a good faith interlocutor. As to what I actually wanted to ask you, it was about your statement that you dismiss terminology like one state and two state because you care about reality. How is that coherent? What reality do you want to achieve if you dismiss?
Because I think that are already the questions, so you can both
I'm
react.
done, thanks.
What? You get the second question, right? Why you took...
Yes. Regarding BDS, I think the only reason BDS has wrote something against standing together is the fact that BDS uses a certain set of terminology that standing together doesn't use or doesn't speak. And I think, I really and truly think that whoever wrote that statement didn't even have the time to go through our social media, didn't even go to our website, didn't even saw the struggles that we took part in, because those struggles were struggles of demonstrations with Palestinians against the occupations, struggles and demonstrations to lift the siege from Gaza, struggles about ending the apartheid that Israel has on the West Bank. So whoever wrote that, I think they didn't even took the slightest time to go and read, even just read about standing together and what we stand for and what we talk about and what we do in each and every day since 2015. So I do think the problem is more of a problem of terminology that they use, and they think it's more correct, more extreme to use, and they use it abroad. And I do believe that BDS, you know, I think, again, boycotting is a strategy and it should be used when it comes to the Middle East. You should be boycotting ministers who are settlers. You should be boycotting ministers who speak of having an atomic bomb on Gaza. You should be boycotting, again, people and governments who give money to the Israeli government in order to continue this war. But boycotting people who go out and demonstrate on the streets to end the exact same thing is just wrong thing to do. And it shows you not as a left or any progressive left who wants to have a change, but it shows you as somebody who is bringing more ideas that can show ideas of more of a right wing that doesn't speak about the interest of the people, but just terminology.
Yeah, maybe about the terminology that you said for one state or two state, it doesn't matter. You know, the pragmatic approach.
First, I will address also the first remark, saying that I am a Jewish Israeli. I recognize the privileges I have. I recognize the power dynamics and the differences we have in our society. I recognize the oppression of the people that live next to me. I also recognize how we, as Jewish people, lose from this reality. And these are all the reasons I'm working to change this reality. In my part, I am worried, and I cannot accept when I hear talks about the resistance, the armed resistance, when they don't put a line when they hurt innocent people. And it is important to say that what hurt innocent people, babies, women, children, men, that have nothing to do with oppressing people, it is important to speak about it because people lost their lives and they are not directly involved in shooting, killing, or oppressing people, and it's important to speak about the red line that should be there. This is one thing. The second thing... No, I'm sorry, I'm answering... this is what I meant, at least. I hope it clarifies. And the second thing is about the terminology. I do think really deeply that more than using, you know, the buzzwords or terminologies or even old slogans of the peace campaign in Israel, because two-state solution is something that is a very old thing in Israel. Also, one-state solution is a very old terminology. I think that more important than that is to clarify what kind of reality you demand. And when we speak about the reality we demand of a solution, is a reality where all people on this land between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean are equal, independent, and free. So if it will come in this kind of a solution or in that kind of a solution, we don't have a specific position, and this is what I mean when it's less important to us. We also feel it is not necessarily our role to draw lines on a map and to put the Palestinian leadership or the Israeli leadership into places where, no, you cannot compromise on this or you cannot compromise on this line, as long as they will reach an agreeable resolution, political solution, where all people are free, independent, and equal, and that's the...
Okay. Last question.
First of all, does this work? Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, Ahlan. I have two questions for the European side. I noticed that, I noticed that you position yourself as the bringers of knowledge versus the ones that are on the field doing the practicalities. However, nowadays in sociology, there's a lot of love for field work, as in we need to first communicate with people in the ground and understand their paradigm to actually create something that is based on facts rather than theories. So I'm wondering, what do you do in order to prevent yourself from talking over voices of, well, obviously Palestinians, but Israelis as well, but primarily I think Palestinians in how I see it. So this is my first question. I hope it was clear.
You want to react? Okay.
And my second question for the Canaanites. I noticed that you focus on talking about the collaboration between Palestinians and Israelis, and this is obviously very, very important. But I think that for a lot of people in the continent, we want to help, and we do not know which organizations are considered, well, by at least standing together as legitimate. So what organizations do you feel like endorse the correct messaging for a rightful solution?
Yes. So
I'm going to be very strict, sorry, because I see the time and I have this. This last question is really more for the bar, sorry. And I want to finish with you because there was a very heated debate. Yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm here, yes, I'm also an academic, so I bring this knowledge and I bring my ideas about narratives, etc. I'm also an activist, so I definitely don't think that I'm the one who brings knowledge compared to other people on the ground, because I do very much do a lot of activism on the ground. Second of all, I'm an anthropologist, and we invented field work before the sociologists knew what it was.
Oh, God. You do this tomorrow at the UvA, please.
I'm very much aware, of course, what this means to look at the interpretation of the people that we work with. That's basically what I and other anthropologists do. And yes, at the end of the day, we try to bring some kind of knowledge for this. But these are two that can combine. I love to combine my activism with my academic work. Doesn't always combine, but I definitely don't think that these things are completely separate. They come together. The language on the field is super important, and that's what I've been doing as an activist and as a scholar for many decades already.
Sabri, last.
Yeah, no, I actually add the word activist on my definition, or like how you introduced me, because that's basically where I started. It was like activism for climate, first of all. That was actually the very first topic I was working on. That was in Tel Aviv with the Greenpeace, and that was in other places. Protests in Balie, in the West Bank, and other, I would say, topics. And this is why, this is also for me, this is a very, I would say, dear to my heart, also because, when Rula talked about, Palestinians paying the price, my dad paid the price, my uncle is in exile, my other one was in jail. Those are things that you pay a price for when you do activism, and when you also, do it. I'm here kind of exiled, not exactly. I don't know what will happen if I will go there. But like it's things that don't only connect only, I would say, to your own cause. Part of the activism I do is in Azerbaijan, in Uzbekistan, in Ukraine, and it's about, for me, connecting and about solidarity. And so for me, it always comes down to values and how you look at those values. This is why, for me, it's very much about not only just justice from a place of doing it on the ground, but also of how we can make narratives to look the same everywhere, and we can speak the same language. Of course, I'm against harming any civilians. I don't know how that was taken. But I'm also for the right of armed resistance. That would make it maybe, unlawful if armed resistance will not be unlawful because some people have done things that are immoral or illegal. The armed resistance is a concept. Mm-hmm. Occupation is also a concept. How much you will end up with a leftist government in Israel, that will still be a government based on that premises of a Jewish country that by nature will have a Jewish supremacy. For me, those words are important, and this is where I connect, I would say, the work on the ground also with the concepts that we want to aspire for. Every single reality we have started with a dream, a vision, a piece of paper. And I think we need to realize that, and we need to look at the importance of the word we choose to use or we choose not to use. Also, when you choose the word left, you already put yourself in a place. You already bring some people close to you, and you make some people feel alienated from you. So I think we all will choose words, and it's important to recognize the power of those words. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Sakri. Well, a lot of the times when I do programs like this, I really build up to kind of a conclusion, but I already knew this night there won't be a conclusion. But for me, the conclusion is what I saw that a lot of people, they shared the feeling of feeling lonely, of feeling angry. I can only hope that an evening like this, listening to you guys, listening to you, can make people feel a little bit more connected, that we all have a lot of the same worries and that we strive for the same goals. Actually, as you operate, you have a shared goal, and it doesn't matter where you're from, you operate to achieve the goal. So to me, that was very inspiring, and I want to thank all my guests, especially you. I wish you a very good tour through the Netherlands. And if you want to know more about the movement, you can assign yourself, right? There will be volunteers outside, so you can do that. I think there's also
take a leaflet also.
Yeah, you can also support the movement in many ways, of course also financial ways. And as I said, there is this, we always say there's the third round, and I hope you will meet each other again outside with drinks, and we have good conversation with each other. So thank you very much for your attention tonight. Only one time.